If you're an investor, you've probably noticed that the traditional portfolio, stocks, bonds, a little real estate, it just feels fragile right now. As a preparedness analyst, my job is to look past the quarterly reports and find assets that are truly secure in a crisis. And today, we're not talking about fancy penthouses. We're talking about something with much more staying power: massive, fortified holes in the ground.
And this quote right here, it gets straight to the point. Our number one vulnerability. Government reports are already screaming about this. They're warning that as our electricity demand just skyrockets, major blackouts could become 100 times more common by 2030. Now, for any company that relies on data, that's not just some inconvenience. It's game over. This single point of failure is forcing everyone to radically rethink where we put our most critical digital assets.
And this anxiety, it goes way beyond just the power grid. It's geopolitical. I mean, look at this. Nearly 2/3 of Americans now think a major global conflict is just around the corner. That's not some fringe idea anymore. It's become a mainstream belief, and it's changing how people act. When people feel this insecure, they start demanding real security for their families, for their businesses, and especially for their data. This fear is actually creating a massive new market for hardened, secure assets.
Which, brings us right to the heart of what we're looking at today. We are seeing this incredible transformation happening. Structures that were literally built for World War III are now being repurposed to preserve our digital world. These old Cold War relics are getting a second chance, and frankly, a very profitable one.
This right here perfectly sums up the massive pivot in what we, as a society, are trying to protect. Back then, it was all about nuclear deterrence. Today, it's all about data security. The need for a retaliation capability has been completely replaced by this insatiable hunger for AI infrastructure. And the whole grim idea of mutually assured destruction, well, that's given way to the absolute corporate necessity of digital redundancy. We're not protecting nations from missiles anymore. We're protecting our entire civilization's data from total chaos.
So let's just track the life of one of these things. It's built back in 1959, and then, get this, it's decommissioned only 6 years later. It just sits there, empty, for decades. Then, in 2021, a venture capitalist with some real vision snaps it up. And now, after a planned $30 million renovation, it's about to be reborn as a fortress for artificial intelligence. This isn't just recycling. It's a brilliant, strategic reinvestment in infrastructure that you literally cannot build again.
Okay, so what is it that makes these underground fortresses such a powerful investment? Let's do a deep dive on the engineering and the financials of one of these decommissioned silo sites near Denver. The numbers here, they're just staggering. This number. This is the one you need to pay attention to. If you tried to build this exact same facility today, from scratch, it would cost you an estimated $350 million. That creates what investors call an economic moat, a barrier to entry for any competitor that is, let's be honest, completely impossible to cross. You just can't build another one, period.
So what did that huge original investment actually buy? It bought this: 15,000 psi of reinforced concrete and steel. The original engineers called it Hoover Dam-type engineering. This isn't just about security cameras and a fence. This is the absolute ultimate in physical hardening. It gives you a level of protection for your servers and data that no building on the surface could ever hope to match.
Now here's the hidden genius of these things from a business perspective. The single biggest operating cost for any data center is power. And most of that power goes to one thing: cooling. Well, deep underground, the temperature is a constant, natural 52 degrees Fahrenheit. This geothermal cooling can slash your electricity costs by as much as a third. It is a massive, permanent competitive advantage that's literally built into the ground.
But okay, let's be real. This isn't some simple plug-and-play deal. The retrofit is a huge undertaking. First, you've got to clean out all the old hazards. We're talking asbestos, lead paint, mercury. Then you have to bring in modern infrastructure, like massive ventilation systems, and figure out how to manage groundwater. And here's the big one. You have to establish total power independence. The plan is to upgrade the old diesel generators, and then, down the line, install small, on-site nuclear reactors to completely cut the cord from that fragile public grid.
So let's just boil down the value proposition here. What do you get? You get dramatically lower operating costs. You get physical security that is second to none. You get true independence from the grid, and you get a unique, non-replicable asset. For an investor, that's not just a good mix, that's a fortress.
But a hardened structure, no matter how strong, is only half of the equation.
In a real crisis, whether it's civil unrest or a full-blown grid-down event, that perimeter is going to be tested by desperate people. And that brings us to the human security factor. How do you actually defend the fence line?
This quote from Drew Miller, he's a retired Air Force intelligence colonel who now builds these fortified communities, it points to a critical truth. Your hardware is not enough. You need a human strategy. You need a defensible position that is manned by trained people who are committed to being there. Without that human software, the physical hardware of the bunker, well, it just becomes a trap.
Now, we're not looking at Fortitude Ranch as a direct investment here, but it gives us the perfect blueprint for the kind of operational security that any investor in a fortified data center has to demand. That means you need trained on-site personnel, a remote, defensible location. You need to be totally self-sufficient, and you need a rigorous protocol for who gets in and who doesn't. Because at the end of the day, security is a complete system. It's not just a concrete wall.
So let's bring it all home. What does all of this actually mean for you as an investor? Let's distill this whole thing down into a final strategic analysis of this new asset class.
Okay, here's the breakdown. The strengths are just profound. Security you can't get anywhere else, and huge energy savings over the long term. The weaknesses? Well, they're real. We're talking high upfront capital and a very complex renovation. But now look at the opportunities. They are perfectly timed with the biggest trends of our era. This explosive demand for AI, which is being fueled by the very grid instability and geopolitical risk we've been talking about. And yeah, there are threats. Tech can change, regulations can be a pain, but the core value here, a non-replicable, physically secure asset, that remains incredibly strong.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. As both our digital and our physical worlds seem to get more and more fragile, our entire definition of what has value is shifting. Is it possible that the ultimate luxury, the ultimate secure asset, is no longer that penthouse with the amazing view, but the quiet, cool, and profound safety of a hole in the ground?